Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, there is initially advice you all need to hear. Then in real time, I'm going to cover 4,000 damage game that was done casually. I'm going to provide context once I start covering that VOD review in real time. Now, let's talk about the honest sit down and the brutally honest truth you all need to hear. I was talking with my good friend Noob King about this, and it's advice I never see posted in any video online. Focus on where you are at skill-wise now, today, your current skill level. Do not rush to Diamond Plus rank. Do not rush to get 4,000 damage. Train the fundamentals, your aim, positioning, team communication, map knowledge, and overall game sense first. Now, I will cover how to get 4,000 damage, but the context when you hear on how I hit it will be interesting, and that is very, very important. If you rush to get 4,000 damage or even 20 eliminations, you do it too consistently in your lobbies, well, it's going to get more difficult to do. You're going to be at a higher rank if you try to do it in ranked, and your pub matches are going to be much more difficult. Your matchmaking will not drop. You're going to always be put in high tier lobbies, which means that those 20 bombs and of course 4K damage games are going to be more difficult. Look at your current rank because you can only achieve these high results when the time is right. Enjoy your current rank and current progress because you can achieve these high results when the time is right. 4,000 damage games in Diamond Plus lobbies look very different from Bronze or even accounts that were made within a current day. If you step away from this video, respect yourself and respect where you are at. Now, when we get into the video, I think context is very important because you're going to see it in a gold lobby. So kind of right in the middle of the road, not the highest rank and not the lowest rank, but I'm going to highlight what makes it easy and what makes it difficult. Let's get into that. Now, let us get into how you actually get 4,000 damage in Apex Legends. I'm going to showcase it with Vantage just because I have multiple Vantage games with 4,000 damage, but I wanted to highlight it in ranked where it's done a little bit more seriously and players tend to play a little bit more serious. In pubs, it can be a bit of a mixed match, but I think in ranked, it's probably easier to hit 4,000 damage personally from what I found. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see me do it on Wattson. I definitely have some games with Wattson. I just haven't done it in the higher lobbies with Vantage quite yet. The highest I've gotten, I think, is 3,300. Actually, 3,500. Now, what's also important context is that gold lobbies, obviously every lobby you play in is going to play very differently. So I apologize if you're saying obviously because maybe for context that may not be obvious for some. So I apologize for that. Now, when we're looking at this gameplay, the initial strong point when you're running Vantage is going to be that initial poke that you have with a sniper. So you see here, the follow-up shot is extremely important. So 50 plus 140 is a strong amount of damage. Remember, you also could get the damage from knocked targets, which is very, very important. So if you knock a target and you do the follow-up shot as Vantage, it also does 100 and eliminates them immediately. So that is also very, very strong in terms of Vantage as well. You'll notice I'm running the Sentinel and the R301. I actually have been using this as a kind of a bait and switch recently. I don't know if I'm going to put this in a full guide, but maybe just for those that are watching the 4K video. It's been my secret technique that I've been using in high tier lobbies, that if you start initially using your ultimate and then you switch over to your, let's say, Sentinel, they will sometimes peak immediately. I've been seeing Predator players as well as Master level players peak thinking that the laser sight is gone. And because they still have the damage boost on them, they peak and they still take increased damage. So that's really something that's kind of interesting to highlight. Even though I said initially not to run snipers at higher level meta, people tend to play pretty interesting. You want to stay also, if you want to get high damage, you want to stay in the fight as much as possible. So armor swaps and making sure that you have an immense amount of batteries. That same tip can be applied as well whenever you are trying to go for 20 eliminations. Remember, every little bit of damage counts, and sometimes you may come short by 100 damage, and that can be the difference between finishing a knock or even being in the fight just a little bit longer. Use your positioning, use your angles to avoid those mistakes. And so I change a keybind here. I forgot to switch one of my keybinds because I was playing Wattson earlier. Now, another interesting point to really highlight as well with Vantage is knowing what the enemy team has in terms of armors. If they have higher armors, you know that you can farm more damage off of them. And you can also tell how many people are in a squad. I was unable to comm with my teammates because I was also in a meeting and a call chatting, but you'll notice that I'm able to gate quite a lot of individuals out. You'll also notice that the squad count, I had the squad count running a bit earlier so you can see how fast the lobby was actually getting eliminated. This lobby was actually just got dumpstered and is completely gone. Now, that doesn't mean that a 4K damage elimination game can essentially not be possible. It means that if you let people reset and do the damage they need to do, it's definitely always possible. So this is already 1,000 damage within a relatively short amount of time, which means if you get this amount of damage and at the very end all you got to do is just start to clean up and do even more, well then that's always a plus. So let's say at the very start of the round you have 1,000 damage, you pretty much know that that round is going to at least go to 2,000 to potentially 3,000 because everyone tends to re-peak and heal. So going for poke weapons also really helps, along with making sure you get your damage up. If you go in and you knock everyone with a Peacekeeper, I've seen people get 20 elimination rounds, but the thing is that they'll only end up with, let's say, like 1,700 to 2,000 damage, and that is because they went in and maybe their teammates got a few of the knocks, but they went in and were mostly just cleanup. So you want to be able to make the initial cracks and then also be able to go in for the cleanup to get the eliminations. It's really difficult to pair the two together, especially as the lobbies become more difficult, because the more difficult the lobbies are, you may not be the one getting the eliminations because you'll get the crack and your teammate may go in and actually steal your kill and elimination, or they might get third party and somebody will actually get the kill instead of you. It's why I highlight the brutally honest truth of how you realistically should be patient in getting your 4K and also 20 bomb. It only gets harder. It does not get any easier, ladies and gentlemen. If you get, let's say, 2,000 damage, your lobbies that you continue to play in are only going to get more difficult. So make sure that you knew how you got the 2,000 damage. You understood how you got 3,000 damage. If you got 3,000 damage, rest assured, I'm almost positive that you can reach 4,000. But if you're dropping 3,000 damage games back to back to back to back to back, realize that you can make up that distance and damage is from finishing somebody who's knocked, getting an initial crack from far away, doing some damage. Now, these are fantastic poke weapons. You'll notice that I have it with the R301 and the Sentinel that I just absolutely shredded there, which is a lot of great tips and advice. So getting that damage, being able to go close range, and also being able to be long range is very, very important. The spread on the R301 and Flatland is a lot worse, so you may need to ADS, so you need to make sure that you have the jump on the opponent. So game sense and positioning is very, very important. I know this is a lot of tips, but I guarantee those that are watching this that you're going to step away, and I promise you that your games are going to, at least you have the knowledge. You may not be able to do it. If you can't do it, you got to go practice your shots. If you cannot beam with the R301 that like you're seeing or a specific weapon, then you have to go train with go train in the test range. You may not need to actually go aim train. If you're on controller or console, go in the test range to get used to that recoil pattern best you can. Remember, all recoil patterns are the same. There might be some various minor spread variants, but you don't necessarily have to sit there and worry that there's going to be, oh, the bullet's going to go in this random direction. So understand that. So don't necessarily stress about those things. Like an example, I know the R301 is going to pull to, the recoil is going to pull to the left, so I'm going to pull initially to, opposite. It's going to pull initially the opposite direction. It's going to pull up to the right, so I need to pull left to counteract that recoil. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself in the description and comment section down below. After a lot of habit, you just kind of know. With the flat line, you know to pull right. With the R301, I know to pull left. You just kind of do that habitually. You make sure everything that you do is essentially a habit. There's only 5 squads remaining. I don't even have the amount of damage lined up yet, but because these guys are super sweats and it is ranked gives you the best opportunity because everyone is less likely to push. So I would say Pubs is going to give you a higher success to drop a 20 bomb elimination. I would say that a 4 damage game, 4,000 damage, is going to be better in ranked because people always want to reset. They don't want to push. So my teammates are rotating. I rotate with them, but it's okay. I did some damage there. I got my damage up, and that's really, really important. So rotations are going to be key. There's only 5 squads remaining. These are all going to be relatively higher squads. But remember, positioning is key. I was kind of out in the open there, so I want to make sure I have my angles and that I'm using the truck effectively. If there's a nade, then I can use, you see how I'm using this angle over to the right? It's not perfect, it's not ideal, but then I can go pretty much right back. I start to slow heal. My lifeline definitely has the advantage. The lifeline could have rezzed here, by the way, and made my life a lot easier, but unfortunately she didn't. So all I can do is just kind of hold the angle and just make sure I don't go down, because if I go down, then, well, that's kind of it. It's funny right there because I didn't feel the presence of the lifeline. I almost forgot that she was a lifeline. So I started the res and I canceled it. And I did comment in game. I said, I'm so sorry. That's my bad. You're a lifeline. And I let her get the res, even though I started it. At that point, I could have also just let the lifeline res, or I could have just finished the res and let the lifeline go for an armor swap. That's also another big advice. While you don't want your teammates to take your kills or do the damage, make sure you keep them up with you. You got to think of everyone as a, I know this is going to sound terrible, but it's just going to be the honest truth. We're doing a lot of honesty in today's video. Meat shields. You want people to be able to, like that, the lifeline's a meat shield right there. Distraction, so I can lay my shots, right? The lifeline took shots. It's perfectly fine, but I was able to get the damage done instead of the lifeline. So now there's only 4 squads remaining. So I'm going to be able to get 2,000 damage here at the very end of the game and figure out an opening. And realistically, you don't ever try to go for 4K damage game. That's also kind of the brutal, honest truth. You never try to go for 20 eliminations. They just happen because you fight teams and you're going for a win, right? You don't want to play differently. I made that mistake with Noob King recently where I was trying to help him out, and I go for the extra damage there. So that's an additional 86. That could be 86 damage, that difference of not getting the full 4,000, right? So don't play differently. If somebody's about to hit a 20 bomb, don't just start throwing your games. I made that mistake trying to help somebody get a 20 bomb. You want to play the same, because if they're going to hit it, they're going to hit it. Now, don't purposely take their kills. I mean, if they know they can get the elimination, be kind and do your best to support them. Or if somebody's about to hit 4,000 damage, say, hey, you know, get that damage in. You know, but don't throw your game. That's also the key. You don't want to just lose the game for the sake of it. Like, we're still rotating here. We're still playing to the best of our ability. This was during a work call, after hours, after SOAR hours, because technically I don't, at these hours, I would actually not necessarily need to take a call, but I took one anyways because I always want to help the talent within SOAR as much as possible. But at the same time, this was actually, I was leveling up this account because I wanted to level it up for the spectating series, which is why you saw me do Platinum versus Diamond. That's why I'm on this alt account, because I need to be on this account because my other accounts are Diamond, and I needed it for comparison so I can do Platinum versus Diamond. I didn't want to necessarily, I tried playing in the Diamond thinking that I would plummet, but then I didn't. I was actually gaining RP solo queuing, and I didn't want to throw anybody's game just to tank the account, essentially. So that's the context of why I'm even on this account to even begin with. Otherwise, I wouldn't really want to level it. But sometimes I log on accounts so that I can coach others and kind of teach them. But then you also, and when I was learning a new legend, this is also really great advice. Let's say, I don't encourage smurfing, but I will say, let's say you are a player that rushed to Diamond, but you do not belong in Diamond. You find that Diamond is very frustrating and your pub experience is extremely negative. At that point, if you feel that confident that you don't belong in that lobby, or there's more for you to learn, maybe perhaps on a new legend, that is where I find it okay to make another account to reset to learn a legend. Perhaps, like when I was playing Vantage initially, I was playing Vantage as if I was probably like a silver player. Maybe I had aim, but I was horrible initially on Vantage. If you go to my first stream, you will see how bad I was on Vantage. But now I got a better feel for her. I can play her at a master level. I got masters within 2 days, which I'm going to post that episode possibly next week. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see that footage. I recorded everything, and I was thinking about showcasing the highlights from it and also maybe some mistakes and cover the mistakes that I made. But 2 days is pretty solid. This is actually not a smart push. We're just kind of barreling in, chasing a rat, essentially. Now, people comment down below, what is a rat? A rat is a player that is playing by themselves. They no longer have teammates, and now they are hiding. So I'm from New York City. Rats tend to hide in the subway system. That is a rat. A rat is hiding. So, you know, going for this initial damage, trying the best that we can. This was a very dangerous play. And look how much ammo I had, because I'm going to run out, actually. I have 420. You should always look at the amount of ammo that you have and assume that you're going to try to do as much damage as humanly possible. Actually, I don't think I run out of ammo. I run out of healing. And you're going to see. Remember, if you're poking for more damage, you better have the heals to back it up. If you don't have the heals to back it up, well, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because you're going to see what happens to me here in a second, where you need to make sure, and you see how I'm using the head glitch here? I'm playing pretty aggressively, though, because there is a team that's going to appear over on the right, but I am playing pretty aggressive, so at least make sure that you have a head glitch and that you know where your opponents are at. There's only 2 squads remaining. I now have to make a deficit of like 1,400 damage. And realistically, even if I was playing super aggressive, most of these teams were really, really passive, and you'll see that. And like, even if I ran in by myself, this is a ranks game, so you kind of assume that everyone knows how to play and what they're doing. So at least try to make an informed decision, knowing like, hey, these teams are decent in what they do. And remember when I was talking about healing and how fast resources go? I have 9 shield cells in 1 battery. I just used my last battery, which means I can get cracked twice before I have no more healing. So be very, very smart about when you poke and when you're trying to do damage. Right now, it seems like everyone and their grandmother is rocking a charge rifle. So that's very unfortunate. This is why I actually find it easier personally to get a 4K damage on Watson. I do it all the time because I can pretty much put the gen next to me and then keep poking. So I put the gen, let's say, right by the stairwell or right down below, and I would go for some poke damage. I'd go downstairs and heal and passive heal it. Now do the same thing. I'd go for some damage. I go downstairs and heal, and then I go upstairs and I would save all my cells. And then I'll have my cells, let's say when the gen breaks, I can finally go through my cells and out resource the opponent. Essentially drain them. Essentially, this is what happens when you play scrims or you're playing at higher tier lobbies and you don't go full 8 mode in Ooga Booga. So if you're not going to go full 8 mode, then you at least want to be able to ensure that you have the resources to out damage a team and that you're not going to be cut short. So remember how I said I constantly switch between the Sentinel and the ultimate? I don't necessarily have the ultimate out all the time because I don't want to give, that was a lot of damage there. So that was 210 damage with 2 snipes. And they go for a play here. And I definitely do follow them in here in a second. I try to look for the angle. It's not like we're not trying, but if we push the team on the right, the team up above is going to fight. If we push the team up above, the team down below is going to fight. Which is why it's an interesting episode to do. I haven't done a 4K damage review in a hot minute, but I found this one interesting because even people at gold are playing pretty smart. It's like old masters sometimes in these lobbies between gold and plat. And you'll see the damage is just spiking. I remember actually commenting during the work meeting that I was having. I said, I actually might drop a 4K damage game here if I keep at this rate. Now, back to the tip that I was going to give about Vantage. You'll notice that I constantly am switching between the Sentinel and my ult. I still have the ult available, but I only want to use the ult whenever I'm going to try to double dip on that ultimate ability. But also, if I pull out the ult and I look over to the right, they're going to know that I'm focused on the team on the left here. So I constantly will switch back and forth depending on the scenario and the situation on what I want to do. Right now I'm getting a lot of damage in with the R301 within this mid-range, and then I decide to switch, and if I miss it, well, you see how quick, not only is he going to charge my rifle me regardless, but also that laser sight is very, very blatant. And also when you're using the R301 or a mid-range, most people forget about this, but there is the flinch. They call it the, different games have different words for it. I call it aim punch on Apex Legends. I believe in Warzone they call it flinch. Some decent shots here. And again, I want them to double peek. See how, you see that trick there? If I landed the shot, it would have been nice. But see how they decided to peek down below and they don't know if I'm peeking? So you just constantly swap between the snipers there. And it works out very well because then you can charge your ultimate at the same time. So it's a smart play to do, and it works really, really well at high levels, and it can really work for high poke damage. Now again, with the R301, you notice that aim punch. The aim punch will help the enemy miss their shot. Even if they're using a sniper, it'll spike up a little bit to where they have a little bit more recoil. And so at mid-range, using a spray weapon can sometimes be a bit more effective. You'll notice now I'm not healing. I have no heals. I actually come to my teammates asking if they had heals. They ignore me. They don't care about me, and I just started crying instead. So now I go for the armor swap here, and I can get back into the fight. Remember the goal, I notice that I need to get damage immediately, so I do get into the fight as quick as possible, and I'm looking for the opportunity. 3,800 damage. I pretty much get it almost right here. I only need 50 more. And I'm looking for an opportunity to get some damage in. There we go. So I got 4,000. Essentially, I can slow it down, but they are essentially just, they just start shoving, which is pretty crazy. But I don't even have any heals, so I pretty much need to always just win my fight. I go down. I have the 4,000 damage. I remember coming to my teammate, I was like, man, I wish I had heals. And this team just kind of shoved us. So kind of unfortunate. Also, I've been talking a lot. Don't forget to drink water. Sometimes I tend to forget, and I feel like there's so many tips and advice that I've been giving. Don't forget to drink water. Both those armor swaps are already taken, unfortunately. And the only thing I can do, I only have flesh heals, and so I decide to use a flesh heal, and then I just drop. Because that's all I can do at this point. If I can get a knock or swap off somebody down below, that's pretty much what I'm going to do. So I see that down below. I'll go for an additional armor swap. And I'm back in the fight. So I think we end here with 3,200. I'll pause it the minute I see it at the end screen here. But again, hopefully this was very helpful. Hopefully it was very honest. Hopefully all of you do not rush to your first 4K. You watching this video, I know you're trying to rush towards it. Slow it down. Take your time with it. You don't want to get into the hardest lobbies right away. You don't want to try getting a 4K 20 in a diamond or master lobby. It's not fun. So let's pause here in a second. Let's see how much damage it totaled out to. 4,214. But as you can tell, only 6 eliminations. The Lifeline even had more than us with only 2,400. So that kind of just proves and showcases that not always are you going to have high eliminations and high damage, they don't always get paired together. I just wanted to highlight a scenario here where they were separate. I think that's helpful. Maybe I'll post a 20 elimination with low damage and what that looks like, because you may play a lot more aggressively versus a lot more passive from what you saw here. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next episode.